The nameless drain. Some tiredness doesn't come from the body. You leave a conversation with that person, and even though you gave your best, listened, agreed, softened your own voice just to keep the peace, something has quietly been pulled out of you. You walked in with something. You walked out with less. It feels like pouring water into a glass with no bottom. You keep pouring. The glass never fills. And somewhere in the middle of it, you realize the thirst was never yours to begin with. For years, you called this by the wrong names. Laziness, weakness, being too sensitive. Maybe someone told you that you were too much or not enough, depending on their mood. But that nameless drain is not a flaw in your character. It is a symptom. The symptom of something no one ever taught you to see, because the people who should have shown you were standing in front of the mirror. Notice it now, the way it sits in your chest after certain people, certain calls. That heaviness that arrives after, never during. As if you only feel the cost once you're finally alone. So why you? Why did you become the source everyone drinks from, and so rarely the one who gets to drink? The child who became a mirror. To answer that, we go back, further than you'd like. Before you could even name yourself, you had already learned the most important lesson of your childhood, written not on any wall, but into your nervous system. You learned when you were allowed to exist. And the answer, quietly, devastatingly, was this: you existed when you reflected them. When you smiled at the right moment. When you became the calm in their storm, the audience to their performance, the small steady mirror that showed them who they needed to be. Then, only then, the warmth came. But the warmth was never for you. It was for the reflection. And a child cannot tell the difference between being loved and being useful. So you learn to be useful. You became fluent in a language no child should learn, reading a face to know whether you were safe. The real child, the one with messy needs and inconvenient feelings, learned to wait in the dark. To not ask for too much, to disappear politely. And that child didn't vanish when you grew up. She grew with you. He came along. And they brought the mirror into everything you would ever do. So what happens when a mirror grows up? The adult fuel. It becomes fuel. Now the world applauds what it once demanded. They call it ambition, discipline, generosity, being the one who never lets anyone down. You work, and then you work more, and it never feels like enough, because underneath it lives the oldest hope you have. That if you just reach the right height, you will finally become someone worth keeping. That love will arrive in the form of a result. Or you give. You agree before you've even heard the request. You read what others need before they ask, the way you once read a parent's face across a kitchen. You make yourself easy to love, hard to leave. You call it kindness. Your body knows it as survival. And so you burn, quietly, gracefully, the kind of burning no one notices because the output keeps coming. The most dependable person in every room, the most invisible to yourself. But even the largest achievement evaporates before it reaches your chest. The promotion, the praise, the thing you sacrificed years for, it touches you for a day, and then the cold returns exactly as it was. You felt that, haven't you? The strange flatness on the other side of getting what you wanted. So why does nothing you reach ever stay? The hole that swallows light. Because you are pouring it into something that cannot hold it. Researchers call it hedonic adaptation, the quiet law that says no matter what we gain, we drift back to where we started. They studied people who won fortunes. Within months, their happiness had returned to exactly where it began. The win was real. The lasting was not. So we chase again. A new purchase, a new achievement, a new person to impress. Each one a small flame thrown into the dark, each one swallowed without a sound. But for you, it is crueler. Because you are trying to fill a particular emptiness, one shaped exactly like the love that never came. A hole with the contours of a mother who couldn't see you, a father who looked through you. And no object, no salary, no applause is shaped to fit that wound. So you keep dropping things into the well. They fall, and you lean over the edge, waiting for the sound of one finally hitting the bottom, finally making you whole. The sound never comes. And what if the reason isn't that you haven't dropped enough? What if you've been pouring everything into a hole that was never even yours to fill? The black hole in the soul. Here's the turn. Stay with me, because everything you believed about yourself is about to invert. You have spent your whole life convinced the emptiness was yours. A defect you were born with, proof that something was fundamentally wrong with you. It was never yours. The parent who shaped you carries a hole far deeper than yours. A black hole. An absence so total they cannot bear to look at it for a moment, because to look at it is to fall in. This is the secret the narcissist hides. Not cruelty, not malice, emptiness, a self that was never built. And a black hole cannot make its own light, so it pulls. It needs something outside itself, a body, a presence, a mirror, to orbit it, to feed it, to reflect back the warmth it does not contain. Clinicians have a name for this hunger. They call it supply. You were the supply. This is why nothing you did was enough. Not because you failed, because you were feeding a void that has no bottom by design. You were the light a black hole used to convince itself it wasn't dark. The secret was never hidden from you. It was hidden from them. So if the emptiness belongs to them, then what, exactly, have you spent your life trying to fill? If something just shifted in you, if for the first time the emptiness has a different owner, then this channel was made for you. Subscribe and stay close. We're not here to fix you in 5 steps. We're here to name the things you felt for years and never had the words for. Now, let's go further. The inherited void. You were not born empty. You did not arrive in this world with a hole at your center. You were trained to carry one, handed a weight before you were old enough to refuse it, and told, never in words, always in glances and silences, that it was yours. And you believed it. Of course you did. A child has no way to know the emptiness she feels is borrowed. So you picked it up and carried it so long that you forgot it was ever placed in your arms by someone else. There is research now into what passes silently between generations. Scientists have traced the marks of trauma in the children of those who suffered, and even in their grandchildren. We pass down more than eyes and surnames. We pass down what was never healed. So the heaviness in your chest, the one you assumed was your broken nature, may be an echo, a weight handed to you the way it was handed to them. And if it was never yours, whose hole was it before it became the one you spent your life feeding? Follow the thread back, and it doesn't end with your mother. It doesn't end with your father. The one who emptied you was, once, a child standing where you stood, reading a face across a room. Learning that love came only on conditions, or didn't come at all. The void is old, older than anyone in your family can remember. Picture it, a great hand above you, holding the strings. And behind that hand, in the dark, another hand, larger still, holding its strings. A chain of the wounded, each passing the same hollow down the line, none of them choosing it, all of them carrying it. But understanding is not forgiveness. To see the origin of the wound does not undo the damage. The child you were still went unseen. The years you spent as fuel were still taken. Both things are true, and you are allowed to hold them at once. But there is one weight this can lift, the oldest, most poisonous belief of all, that you were the cause. You were not the reason the hole existed. You were only the child unlucky enough to be near it when it needed feeding. And yet, understanding the wound does not fill it. So what is left to do with it? The hole you did not dig. Nothing. That is the answer it took you a lifetime to be allowed to hear. There is nothing to do with it, because it was never yours to fill. You cannot pour yourself into a hole someone else dug and come out whole. You only come out emptier, which is exactly what you've done for years. The work was never to become full enough. The work, quieter, harder, is to set down the shovel and to grieve, at last, the love that was supposed to come and didn't. This is not the part where I tell you it gets bright. This is not a promise that the hole disappears. That would be a lie, and you've been lied to enough. The hole may stay. Some absences don't close. They simply stop being carried. But there is an unimaginable difference between feeding a void that belongs to someone else and laying that weight down in the dark and walking a few steps away from it. And when you stop pouring, the exhaustion that had no name begins slowly to fade. In the space where the carrying used to be, there is no triumph, no fireworks, only a stillness you've never been allowed to feel. There was nothing wrong with you. There never was. And when you finally stop covering that hole, what's left in the space, at last, is room for you. The last image. The hole may not vanish. Knowing the name of a thing does not undo it. But there is an immense difference between orbiting in emptiness for your entire life and simply stopping. No longer circling it. No longer arranging your whole existence around a gravity that was never yours. You don't have to fill what you did not dig. You only have to do the one thing no one ever let you do. Set down the glass you've been holding out to people who only ever poured from it. Lower your arms. And discover, in the quiet that follows, that there was water left inside you all along. You were just never still enough to feel it. So the next time that nameless drain arrives, after the call, after the face you spent a lifetime reading, you will know what it is now. You will know whose it was. And that you are allowed to walk away from the well and let it go thirsty without you. The child who was never seen is still in there. She is not asking to be useful anymore. He is not waiting in the dark to be called. They are simply waiting quietly. For you to be the one who finally turns around and looks. If this gave words to something you've carried alone for too long, leave one word in the comments. The name of the weight you're finally setting down. I read them all. And if you know someone still pouring into a well that was never theirs, send this to them quietly. Sometimes being seen begins with someone else seeing first. Stay. There is more here, made for the part of you that was never looked at. I'll be here when you're ready.